1 pitch. A swing and a drive to deep right, away back, goal!
And with that hammy call, it is time for another episode of A Swing and a Tribe podcast, part of the Press Play Podcast Network. I'm your host, Mike Voorhees, and alongside me, as always, still my co-host with The Swing and a Tribe, Brent Spillin. I know, with the name change, Brent. We kept you on. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, Mike, it's sunny outside. The Indians got a win today.
A much-needed win.
I am excited about that. Man, I can't. Yeah, hasn't been too much excitement lately, so I'll take that. But I'm a little more excited for something else today.
You got a income child care tax credit direct deposit in your account?
I wasn't thinking that. Actually, I was going to say I got a free Power Wheel for my kids. A friend gave me.
Okay.
No, it's not. But because those things are expensive.
Free stuff is nice, though.
Those are expensive.
Power Wheels are very expensive.
Anyways, sorry. No, the real excitement is we have the Bryan Shaw back with us today.
Absolutely.
We are excited. Bryan, what is going on, man?
Hey, guys. Good to see you.
It's been
good to hear from you.
It's been 6 weeks since we last spoke with Bryan. Exactly 6 weeks. Couldn't have timed it
that way.
Planned it any better.
Nothing has happened since then.
Not at all.
Nothing at all.
No rumors.
No rumors. It's crickets right now. We'll talk about that in a little bit.
The Indians have been steady Eddie.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the giant elephant in the room.
Is it? Oh, the name change.
The name change.
I almost
if
forgot.
You've been living under a rock on Friday. Today's Thursday. So last week it would have been last Friday. And the date is escaping me for those that don't listen to this. Oh, it's the 23rd.
There we go.
You got July 23rd.
Okay.
The Indians finally announced they will no longer be the Indians next year.
The Spiders?
Nope. Wasn't the Spiders. It was the Guardians.
Okay.
I will say the video with Tom Hanks and the Black Keys, if you haven't seen the video,
feels, right?
It gave me goosebumps.
It did.
And then I saw the logo and I'm like, nope, can't do it.
Which one?
The childlike one that looks like a youth travel baseball logo. Looked like a 10-year-old drew it. Like, I couldn't believe it.
I did like the video. I thought that was awesome. I was getting pumped up. I'm like, here we go. If you haven't seen it, check it out. Google it. You'll be able to find it real fast.
Yeah.
And then I saw the team name. And I don't know. We got to talk about this for a few minutes.
Okay.
I know.
So you both seem to be anti-new name.
Yes.
I absolutely 1000% am against this name.
Okay. So before we get into why you're anti-Guardians, what was your preferred name?
I would have liked them to choose either the Spiders or the Rockers. I figured that one of those two.
The Rockers.
I have reasons why both of those could not happen. But
Brian's ready. Brian's ready to go.
Listen, this is where I'm at.
Go ahead.
Mike's at 1,000% against it. So I'm not quite there. I don't love it right now. Maybe I will. Obviously, we understand why they had to make the change, but I don't have anything better. So I can't complain too much because if I don't have a solution to something, I can't just sit there and complain about it because I got to come up with something better and I don't. So I can't really go on this bent. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because that's where I'm at. I'm I don't necessarily love it. Initially, I'm more than 50% not loving it over time, maybe. So, but I want to hear you, Bryan. It sounds like you like it. And I want to hear some of your reasons.
I like the name. I expect this name. I feel like I had called it 6 months, year ago. I don't even know the timeline. And I was just like, yeah, it's going to be Guardians. I don't know. I just expected it. There were several reasons why it just made sense. Now the team had come out and said not specifically to me, but just in general, all the reasons why you thought it made sense were just happy coincidences. I don't necessarily believe that. Part of the reason being half the name is the same, the DIANS, the Guardians of Transportation being right there, all these kinds of things. And they were like, nah, that's just a happy coincidence. I don't believe that part. I just felt like it fit. And so since I expected it, that was my preferred name choice. So I'm okay with it. Now there's a couple of aspects, and everybody I've talked to, I feel like everybody has at least one thing they don't like. Whether it's like Mike, he doesn't like the baseball G wing logo.
Correct.
I don't like the script. So I like the new font when it comes to Cleveland and the new, what they're calling Diamond C.
Mhm.
I don't think that font works for Guardians, the script Guardians. It's too rigid. It just looks kind of funny to me. And maybe that's because I'm used to seeing Indians nice and smooth. And when you think of a cursive script, you think of smooth script. So I had actually like tweeted this out and was like, hey, I took 15 minutes and I photoshopped this and I just smoothed out the edges and I just think this looks a lot better. Now that's my personal opinion. And I know there's a lot of people that are like Mike, and we're like, hey, what is this G with the baseball and the wings? This looks childish. I thought it looked cool. My initial reaction was like, because it was a big build up with Tom Hanks and everything, and it was like we are the Guardians, and I'm like, boom, sold. And then they show the logo, and I was like, yeah, I like that too. And then they showed the script, and I was like,
I guess what about why is it a diamond C? Why did they go away from the block C? Do you know?
So they had talked about this during the press conference. If you had caught that,
I didn't hear all of it.
It's all that rigidness and all those points and everything have to do with just the architecture of the bridge and kind of like that's the adage they were going with that, and that's kind of my whole point of that works for a typeface font. I don't think that works for a script. Now, Mike had mentioned two names: Spiders, Rockers. So Rockers. First off, that's the WNBA team. Yes, they're defunct. I don't want to continue that association. They were who they were, and also I'm not super fanatic of Cleveland continually being associated with the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. We have much more than that. We are way more than that. And so that's why I didn't want Rockers.
That's a good point.
That's a fair thing. My thing was not necessarily, it was to pay homage to not only the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but the Cleveland Rockers, the WNBA team.
Yeah.
Because I thought their logo was awesome.
It was cool
to kind of borrow it.
But the All-Star game was like, hey, rock and roll. Here's a guitar. And I was like, let's just, we're better than that. I don't want to say better. We're more, like I said, we're more than that. And so here's why I think they didn't do Spiders, for a couple of reasons. There is a misconception that the Indians were once the Spiders. That is not accurate. It was a different franchise that was the Spiders. And they were also a terrible franchise when it comes to win-loss.
Yep.
And one of the, so I only know this because, they have talked about it, but I was also part of this research of what's most important to you to keep. And they had said, like, to the people they have polled, which was mostly season ticket holders, quarter, half full, what's the most important thing to keep? And it was the colors. And so to keep the colors and then to change the name to Spiders, like, let's be honest, guys, what are you associating yourself with? You're Spider-Man. And A, Marvel's probably not having that.
Yeah.
And B, do you just want a bunch of Spider-Man dress up people in your crowd? Like, do you want to be that association of, well, you're the Spider-Man team?
I don't know, because the logo
had
they done the logo correctly though, for the Spiders, I think that would have looked awesome. You could have done stuff with like cobwebs, and when the World Series is in like October, Halloween is in October, you could have kind of intermingled like Halloween.
All the Spider-Man that you had in the crowds.
Sure.
Yeah, but playoffs start like beginning. I mean, like there's not much October baseball. You're not guaranteed to be playing in October, so that might.
You're not. I know, but I'm just saying it's possible.
Yeah. No, so I got you. Okay.
I did have an alternate team name that, like, it was super obscure, and like I said, Guardians was my first choice, and if it wasn't going to be, this, that, and the other for various reasons. There's so many birds in baseball. Why didn't they go Blue Heron?
Mm.
Cleveland and Northeast Ohio
Blue
is super
Jays. You say Blue Heron,
Or
and
if
I
I just
immediately
Heron.
say, yeah, you could have went with the Herons. That one wouldn't have been bad.
Because Northeast Ohio loves their Blue Heron, and
They do.
the return of the Blue Heron. Like if you wanted to go that route, like in something kind of different, like I would have been okay with that. And that was kind of my alternate, like, here's what I came up with that nobody cares about name. But
we care.
We care.
Those are my points to why no Rockers, why no Spiders, and why Guardians makes most sense.
All right. Hey, well, you know what? This is why we have you on here, Brian, because you're making me think outside the box, and now I'm starting to shift a little bit of my thinking.
Can I say one thing though?
Depending on what
I want to wrap up my thought.
All right, wrap it up.
I don't care if this team is called the Spiders, Herons, Guardians. It doesn't matter. We are one of 27 cities that have a Major League Baseball team.
Get it, Mike.
And I am going to support them. I don't care what it says on the jersey. I could care less what they call themselves. I will support this team. Will I go out and buy the merchandise?
Perfect.
Probably not unless they change the font or the logo. We'll see. It's always going to be Cleveland to me, and that's where we're going.
So I'm a friend of mine, and a lot of people I'm sure know that probably also listen to this. Ken Carmen.
Yep.
Had a perfect point. The name is going to be what it is. The logos can always change and evolve.
Yeah, that's good. Good.
And you know what? The biggest thing I'm disappointed about is I can't get a new hat with that Diamond C on it yet. Because I'm going to be the first one in line, because I think the Diamond C looks great. Compared to, like, I know most people are going to be listening to this, but right. I have a blue hat, red brim, red C on it. I want the Diamond C in the middle of my hat, and I'll pay $25-$30 right now for it. So I'm getting in line. Winged baseball, whatever, name whatever. That C looks great.
All right.
Machine Gun Kelly said it best. CLE until I DIE, baby.
All right. There we go. Drop an MGK reference in there.
Why not? He's from Cleveland.
That's right. That's what I'm saying. Got to get to it. So speaking of the Diamond C, we'll shift over to the Block C, the team that's playing right now. So let's just kind of talk for a few minutes here about the state of the current Indians team.
Yep. So the Indians won today. So we are now one game, Brent, over 500. I know 6 weeks ago when we recorded with Brian, we were 39-28, 11 games up, looking pretty, feeling great. Surprisingly, this team was playing as well as they were. And then things just kind of fell apart. We got a hole in the boat.
Well, yes,
9 straight losses happened.
But we did talk about some things, Brian. You remember probably chatting about we shouldn't be super surprised.
No,
and that's kind of what we said. Like, we had set bars because we were like, okay, hey, we're going to reconvene around the trade deadline. What do they need to do to be buyers? And I remember myself specifically from that point in time, I said, if they are 500 baseball from that point in time till now, basically saying if they're still 10, 11 games above 500, you better buy everybody. And unfortunately, the 9-game losing streak happened and they're 1 game above 500. So I'm not going to move the goalpost and say, well, I'm going to be mad if this team trades Cesar and Bryan Shaw and, your other expiring contracts. I'm not. I'm with guys still being injured, because you don't have a timetable on Bieber. You don't have a timetable on Savali. Jordan Luplow now all of a sudden has just missed the entire season with an ankle sprain. We have no timetable on Eddie Rosario. Like, if Brent had made the point off air before this, that maybe if they were at the point where they were record wise, but like all those guys were, say, ready to start tomorrow, we might feel a little bit different, but they're not. They might make it back by September. So that's a hard ask with so many injuries, with your top 3 starters going out for so long. to ask them to be buyers and to try to compete for a wild card spot and make that time back. Because how many? So regardless of all that, how many games would we expect they would need to win to finish with to make a wild card? 90, right?
I would say
90?
low 90s, I think.
Okay. That means they need to go 40-20.
Oh,
That's a tough ask. That's a really tough
yeah.
ask. So I'm okay with punting on this season and because you're 100 games in and to go 40-20 the rest of the way for August and September. I like what more is Cesar Hernandez going to give you? What more is Bryan Shaw going to give you? If they can give you some prospects that can help a few years down the line. But then that brings me to my next point, and people are like, okay, well, you're going to be sellers. Yeah, in the terms of this season, sure. But they also have a huge log jam when it comes to their 40-man roster coming up. And there's a lot of prospects in the double and triple A system right now where I would hope, and not even just hope, but they might have to package some of those guys, trade some of those guys, because there's just too many. And then so you get an MLB ready talent. And I was texting with Mike and I went over kind of like the last three trades. And I was like, look at the hauls that we've gotten over the last three trades. Tell me one of these that the Indians lost. You know, in the amount of guys that are contributing in terms of the system. So I think it is ready. I like, I'll contribute this season kind of like to say 14-15. You know, they were kind of treading water a little bit. The difference is in those years, they were bad at the beginning and then kind of got better in the end. Whereas this year, because of injury, and I'll absolutely say because of injury, they were great at the beginning and then kind of tailed off at the end. But it was like a precursor season to what would become. And you have prospects, you have opportunity, you're able to get guys and that can help your team. But Eddie Rosario, Cesar Hernandez, Bryan Shaw, Blake Parker, if you can trade him for a rosin bag, sure. You know,
I may want more than just a rosin bag. He hasn't pitched terribly.
yeah.
No, he's been decent, but what can you expect to get for a guy that was like a AAA invite? You know what I mean?
Well, hey, I got an idea. Let's talk some of this trade rumor here.
Yeah.
But Brian, we got to take a break here. Can you stick around for a little bit longer?
Absolutely, guys.
All right. So when we get back, we're going to talk about these trade rumors. And there's a ridiculous comment that was said before air. I have to talk about it now. There may be somebody not named Brian or Brent that's on this episode right now.
Wow.
Who is going to tell us why Jose Ramirez is going to be traded before the deadline in 2 days. We'll be right back.
Hey everybody, I'm Gary.
And I'm Jason. Opening cards as a kid, no matter what was in the pack, you always had that stick of chewing gum. Well, it turns out Gary and I opened up a box of 86 Tops last year, and let me tell you, the chewing gum does not age well.
Join us on the Ball Card Show,
The sports podcast for the sports collector.
Hi, my name is Jeremy Powell, co-host of the Oranges, Oranger, Browns podcast. Check us out anywhere you listen to podcasts. For all your Browns coverage, post-game, pre-game, anything you need Browns, you'll find it here on the Oranges, Oranger, Browns podcast.
For the Dennis Maniloff Show, I'll tap into my 40-plus years of following Cleveland sports and 30-plus years of writing and talking about them, so as to bring you informed opinions and analysis of your favorite players and teams. I also will monitor the national sports scene and, when warranted, step out of the toy department and into the real world. And I'll always be on the lookout for special guests. By all means, join us.
Hey everybody, it's Sam Amico from Cavs on the Break NBA podcast. Be sure to give us a listen for all your Cleveland Cavaliers recaps, analysis, breakdowns, draft talk, free agency. The list goes on and on. Give us a listen, Cavs on the Break NBA podcast.
Want to hear more about your favorite TV shows and movies that are on countless streaming services?
Then listen to Up Next with your new favorite hosts, me, Kristen Aviles,
And me, Christina Walter.
Every other week, we'll highlight one genre, but 2 movies or TV shows, one old and one new.
We'll let you know what's hot and what's not from your favorite
or least favorite
streaming services.
And be sure to stay tuned to the end of each episode where we shout out an artist whose name you should know for their talent in the industry.
So follow us to stay up to date with your favorite hosts from Up Next,
a part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
Hi, my name is Sam Post, owner of Phenomenal CBD Store and PhenomenalCBD.com. That's like phenomenal, CBD.com. Tune in where we talk with experts about how the amazing hemp plant can make a difference for people's health and well-being from the Press Play Podcast Network.
Hello, Brooks here with the Books with Brooks monthly book club podcast. We read one book a month and then we talk about it. Books like Stephen King's The Shining or Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens. If you're on the hunt for book recommendations and enjoy sparkling conversation, come read along with us and then listen in.
Hey, it's JD from the Hyman Podcast. I created this podcast to have hard conversations. Conversations that make us human but are also wildly uncomfortable. Conversations that help give voice to the voiceless and to the marginalized. Now you can listen to the entire first season on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts from. Consider this your personal invitation to join the conversation.
Hello, this is Don Mike Mendoza, the host of the Producing While Asian podcast. Join us to listen in on conversations with everyone who identify from producers to non-producers who all are part of the AAPI community. There's all that and more on the Producing While Asian podcast here on the Press Play Podcast Network.
All right. We are back and I want to hear it. Brian wants to hear it. Everybody wants to hear it. Okay, Mike. Why is Jose Ramirez going to be traded?
Well, first I want to say thanks for helping me up off the floor after those 18 wheels. Just the bus just completely destroyed me. Yeah. Thanks for throwing me under the bus. I greatly appreciate that.
You said it.
You know what? And I did. And here's why I said it, because I think it could make the Indians possibly better. If you would
that's a tough sell. That's a tough sell for me.
But I'm saying for a future run. If you would package somebody like Jose Ramirez, Bradley Zimmer, and let's say either Nick Whitgren or Bryan Shaw, and you trade them to a team that is
not me, meaning
loaded with prospects. No, we wouldn't trade you, Brian.
No, we don't want you to go anywhere.
I'm gonna trade the MLB pitcher, Bryan Shaw, to a team like, the Giants or the Tampa Bay Rays, a team that is loaded with prospects where you can continue to build for the future. And that's my take. I'll own it. But we've heard the rumors about Jose potentially to the Yankees. And if that's the case, I'm saying no trade. But if you can make this team better, would you say no?
I can't.
I love Jose Ramirez. Don't get me wrong. He's probably one of the best players on our team. But if in the long run, if we're going to punt this season, as Brian said, if we're going to punt
this season, not next season and the season after.
So Jose's under
that's
contract.
Kind of my point too.
Jose's under contract for 2 more years.
Yeah, 2 years.
Okay.
2 plus, 2.5.
What can you get?
All right, Brian, you want to take this?
You better get it all. You
okay.
better get it all. So I had said when this was initially brought up, I was like, there's negativity and then there's that.
True. But we all know that baseball is a business, and
sure,
trades happen all the time. I'm not saying
Jose,
I'm going to like it,
but
you can't Jose say that I'm going to like it. I'm just
Jose is everything the Indians want. Everything they want. He's controllable and he's inexpensive. True. So I just don't see that happening. And honestly, so the trade deadline, and when it comes to the Indians, every notification I get from MLB Network, MLB app, whatever, ESPN is about like who's going to be on the move, who's going to do this. And strangely, the Indians aren't even mentioned.
No, it's scary.
Weird.
Scary quiet.
Not used to that.
No,
not
I'm
even
not used
not
to it
even with
either.
Jose. Like you've seen the the John Heymans and
Yeah,
and mention Jose. I
Mm-hmm.
just don't see it happening. Like that's a death sentence for this team if you trade Jose. He's
Especially
the
with
most
the name
popular
change,
player.
and I get that.
He's controllable. He's everything that the team wants. And I think that's just wishful thinking. And then it was backtracked later where it was said that, yeah, maybe Jose's available, but the price is super steep.
Yeah.
Every player in every sport imaginable is available for the right price.
Right.
If somebody went to the Browns today and said, I will give you 10 first-round picks for Myles Garrett and Baker Mayfield, can they say no?
I don't think so.
Well, you guys,
that'd be tough.
right?
That
like,
would be tough.
If you,
I'll give you
I don't know. Yeah, but we
that's
get
what
your
I
point though.
mean.
I know I get your point.
Like every guy has a price. Every guy has a price. So of course Jose has a price. If some team came at the Indians and was like, you know, here's our entire outfield and our entire outfield of prospects, can the Indians say no? Like, because then you can just, you know, you can do other things. You can trade some of those guys because you're going to have obviously a million players now. But you can just do things with that. Like, that's just a huge, you're not talking about 50 cents, $1.50 on the dollar. You're talking about like $3 to the dollar. Like it's a huge, everybody has a price.
Right. And that's all I was saying is that if a team comes to the Indians and says, hey, front office, we're going to give you A, B, C, D, E, F, and G for Jose Ramirez and 2 other players, do the Indians go, well,
bold prediction, my friend. Bold.
It could happen. It really could happen.
I don't see it. Yeah, I don't know.
If there's a team desperate enough to make the playoffs and they want to make that trade, do the Indians even pick up the phone? I think they have to. I'm not saying they have to say yes, but I think they're going to think about it very long and very hard.
I'm not sure.
From the history of our front office guys, I'm sure they pick up the phone. And I'm sure they have that conversation. Just it's going to take a lot. I'm sure it's going to take a lot, and I just don't see it happening.
Yeah.
And also because that is the one thing that is actually being talked about of the Indians is that, well, Jose might be traded. So I don't believe a word of it.
Yeah.
Because that's actually the one thing that's being
So
rumored.
who do you think? So Brian, who do you think? Let's talk, what we think might be more realistic options or what we might think might happen. So what's on your mind? Buy, sell, stay, both, what?
So I'm going to kind of borrow the words of others and of neither and both. And I'm sure from the perspective of most fans, this is going to look like selling because you're going to trade all your expiring contracts. And I think they should. Because we've talked about, you're 50 and 49. You have to go 40 and 20 at this point. It's really hard. And I'm going to add this little caveat. Just because they trade away these players doesn't mean they can't bring them back later or after the season because they are free agents.
Fair.
But everybody who's on an expiring contract, trade them all. Blake Parker, Bryan Shaw, Cesar Hernandez, Eddie Rosario can't go because he's hurt. So that's probably not happening.
Well, no, correct me if I'm wrong. He's injured, but they could still trade him.
They could, but is anybody going to want an oblique injury player?
I know the Yankees are currently tied to Kyle Schwarber, and he's on the injured list as well.
We could say Yankees for everything, probably.
We could, but the Yankees won everybody. I mean,
you know what? If you can trade him, great.
I'm
an Eddie Rosario stan. Like, I was super psyched when the Indians signed him because I watched what he did against us for years upon years.
I'm trying to find out where that guy is. I think he got taken somewhere. I don't know, but
well, especially because of his splits at Progressive Field, which are now the opposite. And then DJ Johnson, not Jet Johnson, bearded DJ Johnson, I believe is the other upcoming free agent. So trade your expiring contracts, whether it's you're doing somebody like Bryan Shaw a favor and it's like, hey, we're going to send you to a contender. We know the relationship between him and Tito. If they really feel like next season they want to bring him back, I'm sure he's going to come back. I'm sure he would come back. But Eddie Rosario, Cesar Hernandez, kind of like the 2 bigger pieces of that. I would think hopefully by next season, those may not be guys that you're looking at. You're hoping that some of your prospects and your up and comers are now then going to step up. And there's a lot of them, because they also have to add, by my count, 8 guys that are going to be Rule 5 eligible to the 40-man roster this upcoming offseason. And Rule 5 meaning that another team can, if they're not on the 40-man roster, can snatch them up. Then they have to put them on their 40-man, or I believe it's actually the regular roster, right? They have to be big league.
It's a 25-man roster.
Yes.
Or 26-man roster now.
So let's use an example. Tyler Freeman. Tyler Freeman is an upcoming Rule 5 eligible player. If the Indians don't protect him, put him on the 40-man, somebody could sign him.
And somebody will.
And he would then have to be on the big league roster. So we did that with Trevor Stephan this season. Trevor Stephan, the pitcher, we took him from the Yankees, and he's been on the big league roster the entire season. So that's an example of that. And then we also had Tom. It was
Tom.
Yes. He got taken from us, went to Oakland.
Yeah, Pittsburgh took him first, right? Or was it Oakland? I know he's been with a couple different teams. I think it was Oakland, and then Oakland traded him to Pittsburgh.
Well,
I think that's how that worked.
But I bring that up because whether it was Pittsburgh or Oakland or vice versa, one of them put him back on the minor league roster. Like, they didn't keep him on the major league. So the Indians had the option, when you do that, to bring him back, and they didn't. So
yeah, it was Oakland to Pittsburgh, but it doesn't matter.
The point of this being, you have Tyler Freeman, George Valera, Aaron Bracho, Joey Cantillo, who's a pitcher, Rich, and excuse me for my pronunciation, Palacio.
Yes, at Double-A. I got to see him over the weekend. That kid's up and coming.
So Jose Tena, Brian Lavastida, and Josensi Noel.
Yes, that guy.
Some of those are on the bottom end of your top prospects. So what I did was basically I took the prospective top 30 Indians prospects, kind of cross-referenced it with who was Rule 5 eligible, and you have 8 guys in that top 30. And that's not including, and most of these guys are infielders. Noel, Tena, Palacio, Bracho, and Freeman are all infielders.
Palacios is actually an outfielder. He was playing center field the whole weekend for the Akron Rubber Ducks.
Unless they moved him out there.
The perspective has him.
He can play all over the place.
He might be listed as an infielder.
They had him listed at second base. Well, but but they're talking about that with Nolan Jones too,
right?
Because he's a third baseman, and if you keep Jose Ramirez, he's obviously not going to play third base. So
so they have him learning first base and the corner outfield spots,
and let's not forget Jose started off at left field in the 2016 season. So, they move these guys around, but the whole point being is, like, I didn't even mention Owen Miller and Ernie Clement and Nolan Jones and all these guys who are already in the 40-man, who are your next up and coming prospects. Most of the guys I just listed off, people are probably like, who? But Tyler Freeman's your number 2 prospect. Valera's your number 4 prospect. Bracho's your number 7. Those are kind of your top guys in your farm system, and you have to protect them. And there's not a lot of spots to do that. So rather than letting other teams pluck these dudes for free, essentially, do you package some of them and get somebody who's MLB ready?
Yeah.
And so that's where I think they're going to be buyers, where they're going to, we have a really good farm system. We have a good up and coming farm system, but we have too many who need to be protected. So take 2 or 3 of those guys and go get you somebody who maybe is a 4th outfielder for a contender, that doesn't see a lot of time, but is an up and comer, a 24, 25-year-old who, like your Franmil Reyes, your, guys that we have seen over the last few years, the Indians have traded for, who have been big contributors to this team.
Yeah. I know one person the Indians won't be getting, and that's Joey Gallo, because breaking news has Joey Gallo to the New York Yankees.
Of course.
And I guarantee you the Yankees are not done. They're not. They're going to do everything they can to catch the Tampa Bay Rays and the Boston Red Sox.
So
unbelievable.
But kind of to that point, so they're doing all these things to catch two teams.
Mm-hmm.
Are they in the wild card hunt right now? What's their wild card status?
For the Yankees, hold on, I will pull that up.
They're right around 500 too, aren't they?
Yes, they are. They have this.
Okay, so they're going to make all these moves, and what if they flounder? What if all this comes for naught?
Joey Gallo's a stud, and he's a left-handed hitter.
Yes,
playing.
I would have
Yankee
loved
Stadium.
Joey Gallo
He's
on the
gonna
Indians.
Crush home runs. Like the Yankees are currently 52 or 52 and 47. So they're
2 games better than the Indians.
So they're in 4th place for the wild card.
Okay. And are the Yankees going 40-20 in the next 60 games?
They could. It's possible.
Yeah, when we trade him Jose, right?
It's that. I don't want him to go to New York. But the Yankees have been tied to like Trevor Story and some of these other players. So you don't know. Like the Yankees could load up and they could go 40-20. I'm not saying I would like them to, but
I don't know.
Well,
that's interesting points you got there, but yeah. So I'm curious to see in the next day and a half or whatever, or a little over 2. Oh yeah, about day and a half, a little over. What's going to happen here?
Yeah, so I think they'll do a little bit of both. Where you can get a guy like Josh Naylor has kind of been one of those guys where he's that up and comer, and Franmil Reyes, and let's not forget. Owen Miller was a part of kind of those packages with the last few trades.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a few other of those guys, Cal Quantrill and Logan Allen, there's guys where they're expected to be contributors, and there's several of them that have come from those last few trades. And so, everybody wants to have their opinions on how the Indians spend their money and the ownership and whatever. I'm totally on board with the front office and how they handle their business and how they handle whatever restrictions are given to them. And every move that they make, until proven otherwise, I'm going to say that was a good move, because the last several moves, I can't say they've lost on any of them.
No, I agree.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm going to try to just take the rest of the season, just enjoy it. Like I'm not going to try to. I was getting all emotionally involved. I think all of us were when they had that 9-game losing streak, because we thought they were going to be able to do something. But now, like you said, can we punt in the season? We're not saying punt. We want them to lose every single game. It's like we're not trying to.
No, I want to see what we've got.
Play the young guys, bring them up, let them play, and like you said, we got to protect some of these guys, in the offseason. So I'm just kind of looking forward to see what they're going to do with all these guys.
Yeah,
me
too.
So figure out who they are and figure out what they can do. Because there's guys that are already on the 40-man: Nolan Jones, Gabriel Arias, Owen Miller, Daniel Johnson. Of the Indians' top prospects. And those are the names that a lot of people have heard. But then there's several more of these guys that aren't on the 40-man roster yet that are in your, in AA or at Lake County and things like that, to where, you haven't heard yet. And it's decision time on to at least protect them and put them on the 40-man roster. And it's been mentioned a couple of times, by Hammy has kind of mentioned during the broadcast of just they haven't been able to necessarily call up guys pitching wise. They've been really, really taxed pitching because there's guys that aren't on the 40-man. And so if you put them on the 40-man, then you have to cut somebody and you have to make a move. And so there's some, it's not always as easy as bringing up like a Scott Moss, because I don't think Scott Moss is on the 40 man.
I don't believe. Is Kurt McCarty on our 40 man as well? I don't believe so. He's another up and coming pitcher that has pitched really well this year at AAA, and I was shocked that the Indians hadn't called him up, but because he's not on the 40 man.
Because he's not on the 40 man. So that includes like, some roster movement.
You know what that means? They're handcuffed at what they can do.
Yeah, it's tough. So as Brent said, like, I'm not going to throw away the season, and I'm not going to stop going because, Cesar Hernandez isn't here. I've really liked what Cesar has really contributed to the team the last 2 years. And all of a sudden this season, he wants to be a home run hitter and is just blasting him out of the ballpark, which
that's fine.
I think
that's
is
fine
great.
With me. I'll take that.
Yeah. Which is just upping his trade value.
Right. Exactly. Lots of teams are looking for a second baseman though.
But think about how many middle infielders the Indians have in their farm system that are up and coming. We just mentioned several, Nolan Jones, Tyler Freeman, Gabriel Arias.
Don't forget about Andres Jimenez either.
Yeah,
he's down in AAA.
Yes, I didn't even mention Jimenez, who started off on the season with this team, who is apparently just hitting the cover off the ball since he's been sent on to AAA, which he never had played in AAA. Before this season.
Right.
So he went, and several of the pitchers, I think it was Mejia. I think he had never pitched in AAA. I think he
came straight from since the 2020 season was canceled. He went straight from Akron to the majors.
Tristan McKenzie did the same thing, I think.
Tristan McKenzie did the same thing.
Yeah. So these guys have had growing pains. This has been a tough season for the Indians. Nobody wants to say like, okay, great. That stinks that they can't compete, but they have had so many hurdles to overcome. And at least you've had answered some questions. McKenzie has looked great in his last few outings. Quantrill has had a really good July. Those are stepping stones to what could be hopefully a great 2022.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to that.
Me too.
And we'll see what happens. I know, like you said, and I know we want to wrap up here, Brian. Thank you for coming on. And one thing I want to look forward to is having you back on again before the season ends.
I think that's a definite 1,000% accurate.
So we want to do like a season recap and see if any of our trade predictions came correct.
Absolutely. I think we can do that.
Let's see that.
But Brent, I got to tell you,
what
I'm going to go with what you said. What you said tonight really rung in my head. Let's enjoy the rest of this season. We've trusted in Tito. We have trusted this front office. Let's see what they can do. Trade deadline is 4 p.m. on Friday. A lot can happen between now, Wednesday evening, and 4 p.m. Friday.
Yeah.
And we're just let's enjoy it. Sit back, relax, buckle your seatbelt. Keep your hands and feet inside the cart, and we'll be good to go.
Absolutely.
I agree. I just want to change your verbiage. Let's have fun.
Yes.
There you go. I like that.
Indians fans don't like the word enjoy.
No, that's right.
Yeah.
That guy that we won that trade. Suck it, New York.
Oh man, that's a good point.
You can have Lindor. We won that trade. Another trade that we won. Thank you.
It's a little early, but I hear you.
No, Ahmed Rosario's playing extremely well.
Gotcha.
I'm okay with that trade.
I know. So Brian,
so he's another player though. Is he a middle infielder? Is he an outfielder?
I like him a whole lot better at shortstop than I did in center field.
But he's another guy you got to figure out where he's going to be.
Right.
It adds to everything else we just talked about.
That's why we're going to have you back on to help us sort through a lot of this. We'll have a lot of this conversation too. But Brian, tell us everybody like a social media where we can find you.
Sure. I'm at Weather Shaw, WX, shorthand for weather, SHAW. You can find me on Bryan Shaw Weather. I've got some things upcoming in the next month, so you'll see me around. Just follow me on social media. I watch every game. I go to a lot of games. I'm from here. I've been watching this team for a long time, so appreciate you guys having me on. This is such a blast.
Absolutely, man. I love it.
I look forward to doing it in a couple of weeks, and hopefully we're talking about towards the end of the season of like okay, we're really excited for next year.
Mhm.
Like hopefully it's this team is going to just skyrocket for next year. Hopefully that's our next conversation, because after the last broadcast we were hopeful, and then come this broadcast we're like, yeah, that didn't work out.
Yeah, man, absolutely. I'm looking forward to that conversation. But yeah, thanks again, dude. We love having you on, and we will talk to you soon. And Mike, as always, man, have a good one.
Absolutely,
Love
brother.
working with you.
Absolutely, couldn't say it better myself. Hey, good night, Tribe fans.
We'll see ya.
Who keeps you cheering year after year? Who's got the ballpark? The best is all right here. Who's got the fans with so much clear?